All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Believing Seeds, human being American English. And I'd like to welcome you to my review of The Long Walk. I want to first off say hello to everyone currently joining us on X and the Green Machine Rumble. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Already in the chat, bringing the $1 super chat, FKHC 2005, sometimes known as Tim. Faithful Blue Ranch channel member that I've already wanted on YouTube. Watch out for her channel, Book Chick Productions. It's kind of weary. The tired midnight blogger, the voice of Northern Oklahoma. Nothing to see here, citizen channel member, Curtis Elby. Politics aside, I'd love to know how this one is. Well, we will definitely be getting into that. All right. So over the weekend, I did see The Long Walk. And I first became aware of The Long Walk and the Bachman books in general when I was in high school. So it's like late 80s, early 90s. And perusing the school libraries, I often did, I found the Bachman books, which were Rage, The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Running Man. Now, Rage was a very controversial book later on because the perpetrator of a school shooting claimed that they used that book as inspiration. And since then, Stephen King has had that book pulled from shelves. So it's very difficult to find. As someone who had read it and liked it for what it was, I always took that book to be a cautionary tale, whereas there were fears that people would try to imitate it. I looked at it as this was what not to do. This was the worst case scenario because it's about a character that takes his class hostage, kills a couple of the teachers, and it becomes this standoff. Then there was Road Work, which was a book that was kind of a little all over the place. I wasn't a fan of it. It needed editing. It didn't feel focused to me. I get the point of it. I just felt that it was kind of dragged out, and it was something of a slog to read, especially after you had already had Rage and Long Walk. Then you get to The Running Man. Very different film, very different book than the film that Schwarzenegger starred in. I don't know what the Glenn Powell movie is going to do. It looks like it's kind of a cross between the book and a remake of the Schwarzenegger. But anyway, it seems to be closer to the book. And the book is just like a straight up action story, instead of getting kind of chased from room to room inside this television studio, you're being chased cross country, and there are people who are, essentially bounty hunters who have been hired to track you down, and you have to get away from them. Meanwhile, the whole thing is televised. And it was kind of really a smack at like reality television before reality television was a thing, which was the interesting part of it. Then you get to the second story. And the one that always kind of stuck with me for whatever reason was The Long Walk. And again, it's kind of as Tom Connors of Midnight Suns puts it, you have the running man, this is the walking man. And he's not wrong. And, again, this competition that is televised, and you have this basically this military coup that has taken place, anyone who speaks out against them is taken away, ostensibly killed. And then to supposedly rally the nation, you have The Long Walk, where you have 100 18 to 22-year-olds who are chosen by lottery to compete. And it gets down, and basically they keep walking until there is only one of them left. And you get to, and whoever is left wins basically whatever they want. They're kind of granted a wish, so to speak. First off, before I go into any of this is going to be a non-spoiler review. I am not going to give away the ending of the book. I am not going to give away the ending of the film. I will tell you up front, the ending of the film is different from the book. And whether or not you approve of the changes that are made between the book and the film, I think is going to be up to what your enjoyment of the film itself will be. Now, when I read The Long Walk, when I read the book, I always thought it would make for a good movie, and was always kind of surprised that it never was adapted. Because I always thought you get the right group of actors together, you get the right kind of actors director, because there were these very long, dialogue scenes that were taking place, and of course intermittently you would get these, pretty horrific, little beats of violence throughout. So the fact that it doesn't surprise me that this became a film. It surprises me how long it took. More than 40 years to get to the screen, some 35 years since I'd read the book. So, even though I have been unhappy of late with the content of certain movies, the quality of most of them, and I'm going to be doing a video coming up that's going to be discussing that. I wanted to see this because, like I said, I always thought it would make a good movie, and it seemed that they got the right, cast together, the right director, pretty decent writer, based from what I can tell. J.T. Molnar, who is the writer-director of Strange Darling, was the screenwriter on this film. And the director was Francis Lawrence, who, of course, did the Hunger Games films, Constantine, I Believe I Am Legend. And so they definitely got the right group behind, and as it turns out, actually in front of the camera. It's shot very well. It does have that, it has the long takes that I figured it was going to have. So, okay, the story. The main character is Ray Garrity, who's played by Cooper Hoffman. He is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. And we kind of follow him, his mother, who's played by Judy Greer. And there's this the scene at the beginning just gets you, right away, with her, as she's kind of saying goodbye to him before he goes to the long walk, and he meets characters along the way, and they're all characters out of the book. They did keep a lot of the characters. They didn't keep everybody. There's one notable absence from the book that really kind of surprised me, but I'll go into that. So Garrity meets McVrees, who's played by David Johnson, who of course was the android in Alien Romulus. He meets Olsen, who's Ben Wang, the kid from Karate Kid Legends. Charlie Plummer plays Barkovich. Garrett Waring is Stebbins, and some others along the way. And the movie, as with the book, gives you the time with them that you need to get to know who they are. And so when they do start, I'll say it, when they start getting killed, it does get you, because there's some familiar faces in there that you have some history with. And it is, even though I knew where the story was going from reading the book, it still didn't make it all that much easier. Now the whole idea behind the long walk is that you have to stay at a pace of 3 miles per hour throughout. If you slow down, you are given a warning. You are given as many as 3 warnings, and if you still haven't sped up, you buy your ticket, as it is referred to. If you step away from the road, you are killed. If you attack any of the members of the military that are, riding along, keeping pace with you, you will be killed. Pretty much you're screwed, and kind of regardless, unless you just walk straight and go 3 miles per hour and be the last guy left. So it is a rather nihilistic film, because it is a nihilistic situation. There's kind of no way out for these people, really. And there's all of these kind of little allegiances and friendships that begin to form along the way. Characters trying to help the other guy out along the way, and where all of that goes. Now, as with the book, this military dictatorship, I don't know what else to call it, that has taken over the country. It's never really explained how or why. We know that it is that some kind of apocalyptic event has taken place, and the military has taken over, and they are represented by a character called the Major. And the Major is played in the film by Mark Hamill, and he is very creepy, very cold, very reptilian, doesn't even react when people are insulting him to his face. He's just very one track minded. And by being that way, it's again very creepy. Now, like I said, there are actors that you are familiar with. There is one that a very familiar face that if you've seen the Red Band trailer, you know what I mean. There is a familiar face that is not in this movie for very long. And I think that the way that they cast that character with who they cast it with is on purpose. You think, oh, he's going to make it to the. Oh no, he's not. Oh shit, he's not going to make it to the end. And it is a scene that is straight out of the book, almost verbatim. And there are scenes that are almost like verbatim out of the book, and other things that aren't. One, like I said, one of the changes is that there are characters who are prominent in the book that are not in the film. One in particular, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but because I don't want to give away, I don't want to give away too much of the film. So far, everything I've told you is in within the first 5 to 10 minutes. Now, there's a character that is prominent in the book, who the odds makers, so to speak, proclaim this character is going to be the one to most likely survive. He's the oldest of them. He is the fittest of them. He is the guy, the total package, basically, Captain Wow, this guy will survive, and that character is not in the film. However, they have given his traits and his backstory to certain other characters in the film. So it's almost like he's there, but he isn't, So, like I said, there are changes between the book and the film. It's not a straight adaptation. This goes into its own direction. One of the changes is that earlier I was talking about how the contestants, with lack of a better term, are chosen. It's by lottery, and they pick 100 100 contestants. In this film, there's only 50. And the idea is it's supposed to be one contestant from each state. And they get to and in the book, and because it's Stephen King, it takes place in Maine. In the film, I don't believe they ever at any point said where. Where it takes place, and you can't. I kind of got the idea that it was maybe kind of somewhere in the Midwest, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't really. Upstate New York, maybe. I don't know. And I don't believe they ever really said it at any point. If they did, I missed it. But in the book, with the long walk basically taking place in Maine, Garrity being from Maine, he becomes kind of the de facto hometown boy, and so there in the book there are crowds at certain places who are rooting the walkers on. In this film, you very oddly don't have that. In the book, you get this sense that there is this outside world because there are people, lined up at certain points on the route of the race. In the film, you don't really have that. You have like a person here and there, but that's kind of it. And even though you're told the long walk is being televised, you don't really have this sense of that. There's no scenes of anyone at home watching this on television or anything, which I thought was kind of odd. It just kind of felt like it's one of those kind of movies that's just happening to the people who are involved, and that the rest of the world is going on as normal. It's kind of what it feels like in a weird way, which kind of serves to just make things feel even more off-putting. And hello to JPRPH1 channel member. So I would say that was kind of a strike against the film. Now, as someone who has read the book and now seen the movie, there were certain scenes that I was curious, would they be in the film and how would they be depicted? And there were kind of two such scenes that happen later in the film. So I can't really go into detail. But I would say that with one scene, it's in the film, and I'm glad it's in the movie. I was just thinking there would be maybe more to it. And the other scene is in the film. It's just done differently because they chose to change the ending. And because they changed the ending of the book, there are certain things the ending of the film is set up throughout. There are these little breadcrumbs. Everything in this movie tracks. It all makes sense in the end. But because of the changes made, it altered that one particular scene. And I kind of had I kind of had second thoughts about it. With the film itself, I don't want it to come off like you have to divorce it from it. It's just the ending of the book has some ambiguity to it. And while it kind of does here too, you can kind of accept it and move on. And, kind of decide for yourself what happens up to that point. So my advice would be, if you've read the book, your enjoyment of the film will rise or fall depending on how you feel about the changes that are made. And there are definitely a few. Now, I do understand that there was a subplot that was filmed that was cut because one of the actors involved in that subplot is still in the credits for the film on IMDb. Because I looked this up and I'm like, I don't recall the character being in the film. I don't think I missed it. But I do know who that character was in the book. And it would have been interesting to see them fit that subplot into this film. You really wouldn't have needed all that many. You maybe only would have needed you maybe only would have needed a couple of scenes. They wouldn't have been long. Again, I don't want to go too far into it. I got to assume that when this comes out on disc, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of unrated director's cut that came out later on. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I got a feeling there's a longer unrated version of this floating around somewhere. Now, the film itself, without credits, without the ending credits, runs about an hour in maybe 39, maybe 40 minutes. So, it's not long. It's not a long film. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's pretty well paced. I'll give it that. Like I said, it's shot pretty well. It looks like a movie. It feels like a movie. The acting is very good. Mark Hamill's creepy. Judy Greer's scenes are good. The actors playing the contestants of the race are all pretty good. I do want to single out David Johnson, plays McVrees, the kid from Alien Romulus. He is Oscar nominee level. He's that good. And he has some scenes in that third act. Holy smokes. It's he's very good here. I mean, just watching him alone is almost, price of admission. So the actors across the board are all very good. It and the interesting thing about it is they all come off like they read the source material. And I wonder if they were told to read the book first. Because everybody's pretty spot on. Like I said, there are a few characters that are composites of characters from the original book, because you only have half the characters to deal with, which I think was probably for the best. That was probably like a budget issue, or just to simplify things, to take the number of contestants down from 100 to 50. So, it all makes sense. Why certain changes were made. Now I'm going to, because Curtis kind of brought this up already in the chat, I'm going to discuss the elephant in the room. This movie tanked in its opening weekend. And I have to think that it's recent statements made by Stephen King and Mark Hamill that didn't help this movie and probably didn't help Life of Chuck. And it's too bad because these are both good movies that are worth seeing. I like Life of Chuck much better over this film. But, it's a double-edged sword because I think they're both movies worth watching at the same time. I can also understand people wanting to sit this movie out. And sitting out Life of Chuck. I think you're missing good movies, but I understand the argument completely. And I've felt the same way about a lot of other films. Like I said, I'm gonna be doing a video here very soon that's going to be all about how film has changed and how it's getting harder and harder to divorce actor from character. Now, I ask a question in the title of this video. Is the long walk worth taking? Yes. It's not a great film, but it's not bad. I think it's worth the watch. I think there's an extra punch to it. The fact that it came out in theaters this weekend in light of some events that have taken place. So on the strength of the acting, it is well shot. It's pretty decently written. So I am going to give The Long Walk 3 stars out of 5. I think it's worth a look. If you choose to wait for streaming to see it, fine. I think it's definitely worth a rental for sure. My advice would be, if you're curious about the film, go see it. Decide for yourself. Make your own video. It's not going to be a movie for everyone. I think that people who are fans of the book, like myself, this was going to be a day one. And I'm not disappointed. Like I said, not a great film, but certainly not a bad one. It has a lot of good points. So I am recommending the film. Those of you who have decided you're just not going to bother with this film, okay. Your choice, certainly. I understand. But if you're curious, give it a watch and decide for yourself. Like I said, it's just under an hour and 40 minutes minus credits, so it does not outstay its welcome. Pretty well paced. I didn't feel bored watching it at any point, which is always a good sign. So yeah, it's not going to be on my, top 10 of the year list by any means, but I'm going to recommend it. So go out and decide for yourselves. All right, that's my review of The Long Walk, starring Cooper Hoffman, David Johnson, Mark Hamill, Judy Greer, Josh Hamilton, Charlie Plummer, Ben Wang, Garrett Waring, the Jojo Rabbit kid is in here. Don't remember his name, sorry. So yeah, screenplay by J.T. Molnar, based on a novel by Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King. Directed by Francis Lawrence. It's out in theaters now. I want to thank everyone who joined me in the chat. JPRPH1, Curtis Selby, the Bird Woman of YouTube, Connie Cleary, once again, thank you to Tim, FKHC 2005, for the super chat. And of course, once again, everybody on X and Rumble. From HQ and all points north, south, east, west, and beyond, good night, take care, stay strong, be safe and healthy. Make sure you keep it 3 miles per hour, because this is how we win.